in a minute. Live desktop is on.
Okay, good morning everybody. Thanks for joining us. For those that don't know me, I'm Tim Shatliff, Key Account Manager here at APH. Today we're going to be partnering with Sharperlight. We're going to be running a webinar. Sharperlight, obviously, reporting analytics solution. It's used by a number of APH customers and a hell of a lot of customers using SAP Business One across the UK. Shortly, I'm going to hand over to Robin. Robin's going to do an introduction into Sharperlight, and then we'll hand over to Donald, who's going to do a demonstration so you get to see some product itself. After that, we're going to be joined by Nurgal Barrett, who's the Financial Director at Frankham. Frankham have been using Sharperlight for a number of years, and we're going to get a little bit of insight into her findings, experiences in using the solution. So, yeah, over to you, Robin. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Just a quick introduction to Sharperlight. We as a product are essentially a business intelligence and data analysis toolset. We exist in this space because on the one hand, you have great visualization tools that exist, and you have, on the other hand, you've got fantastic database solution tools, so ERPs and FMS solutions. And traditionally, over the years, what we found is that there is always a gap in between the visualization layer and the ERP layer. So when you need to do any kind of reporting that is custom to you, it can be quite a challenge to extract the data out of that source system. So Sharperlight essentially exists as a self-service reporting solution that enables users, just normal users, without any code or any major technical ability, to be able to extract and surface the data from their complex underlying solutions into a visualization layer like Excel or like a web browser, any modern web browser. And so I'm going to hand over to Donald in a second, and he'll take you through the product. But I think it's important to position and just understand where we sit in the marketplace, because we solve a problem that most of the other visualization tools that you see on the market, we solve a problem that they don't. And so look out for that. Look out for the challenges that you have in your business that I think Sharperlight will be able to overcome, in particular when you are reporting and trying to extract data from SAP B1. So yeah, thanks again for attending. I'm going to pass straight over to Donald, because the more of the product you can see, the better.
Thank you, Robin. Hopefully I'll be sharing my screen. Yes, I am. Excellent. So I'm going to start off in Excel. So Sharperlight has an Excel add-in, and that's one of the very popular integrations that we provide. We also do web reporting and dashboarding and a number of other sort of tool sets. So I'll touch onto those as well. But I'll start with Excel, since it's a pretty kind of common sort of environment for people to get comfortable with. The easiest way to visualize Sharperlight is to see somebody build a query. So that's what I'm going to start with. So I've got my Sharperlight ribbon here. I've logged in, so there's no login dialog. And I've just clicked on an icon, and I'm going to create what we call a table formula. So I'm going to create a formula in Excel, which is going to go away and pull information out of SAP Business One. By clicking on that icon, it's come up with a query builder. So the query builder is the common interface we use to build queries. It's used throughout the product. It's used in the web as well. So we have a web version of that. And in this case here, I'm going to select some references on the underlying sheet. So this query is going to be linked to the underlying sheet. I'm going to run it based on the GL transactions table, but you can also, as you can see here, see a number of other folders and a multitude of individual sort of queryable tables. All this logic is built into the data model, this connector that we provide as part of SAP Business One. So in this case here, I've selected that table. It's then populated a selection list of fields. So these are the standard sort of fields that you would get. I'm then going to link my account filter here. So I'll do account from and to, and I'll do my period from and to. I'm just going to output a couple of fields. So I'm just going to open up this folder. So I'm going to output some chart of accounts details. So I can just drag and drop. It is very much a drag and drop sort of interface. I'm going to output the amount field as well. And I'll just preview. Okay, so I am producing some numbers. Okay, I haven't got my filtering wrong, so I'm pulling out some numbers. And if I was happy with that query, I could say okay, and I could save that query. If I've missed something in the query, if I wanted to add something else, I can just drag some other fields in. So for example, user-defined fields. If you've got user-defined fields in SAP Business One, Sharperlight identifies those fields and makes them available for you, so you can just drag them out. You can output them. You can also filter on them as well. So you can basically pick up those fields either way. In this case here, I'm not going to worry about those. I'll just drag that out. I'm just going to accept that query as it is. I say okay. And what it's done in Excel, it's created a table formula in this cell here. So I highlighted that yellow in the background, not because of any great significance, just so that it's very clear that that's the cell that I started with. And that formula then has links to these filters up here. Now, like any other sort of Excel formula, if I change the input criteria, so if I double click on that cell, it's linked to that formula. So it gives me the lookup that it relates to. So if I go to, let's say, let's go miscellaneous revenue, just change that there, and it just flickered potentially, or did it flicker? Oh, and I happen to have turned off my recalculation. Just testing something. There we go. Isn't that always fun? Doing a calculation in the background, which I didn't mean to do, but anyway. There we go. So if I change that back to what I was actually working on. Okay, there it's flickered, which is what I was expecting it to do. And if I was to go in here and actually change the period, so I just overtype the period, hit that, and you can see that those numbers are actually flickering again. So by changing the filter criteria, you can see it's actually refreshing, and it's using automatic recalculation. Some of the things that we add to that sort of query logic is the ability to drill into queries. So that table that I've got there, I can drill into it and analyze it further. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to slice it based on period, I click on here and I've just drilled into that row based on the period. Now, if I wanted to drill into it, like, for example, by project code, I could do that very easily. So let's just output maybe the project code. I'll just do okay to that. And that's let me drill into that at another level. And I could then drill down to the transaction details if I wanted to. So you can drill into it at multiple levels. So the data model allows you both to query the data, but also to analyze and slice and dice that data. Now, that query that I've got on the left is almost identical to this query on the right. And let's say, for example, I take out that little icon, so it's now refreshing. The difference between the query on the right as opposed to the query on the left is that I've created what we call drill throughs, or some drill paths. Now, drill paths are replayable ways of drilling into data. So for example, in this example here, if I click on it, it gives me a list of drill down, so I can drill down on the fly, or I've also got drill throughs. So with the drill through, I can click on it, it'll take me directly to the slice of information. Now, the drill through is very important. It means its repeatability. If you've got a query in Excel, you can click on it and you can just repeat the same query over and over again. It also allows you to take what you potentially have created in Excel. You could publish that as a web report, and that's what I'm just about to do. So I'm pretty much taking the query that I had in Excel. I'm now going to publish it into Excel. And now I'm going to view it in a web browser. So it's exactly the same query. I'm just displaying it in a web browser now. Got that query there, but those drill throughs are also available in the web. So that's one of the really nice features of drill through, that whenever you create a drill through, a drill path that's in a query, it's reusable in whatever presentation layer you happen to be working with. It could be a table in the web, as what you see here. It could be a chart. So Sharperlight comes with its own charting engine. And by clicking on that slice of the data, I could also use the drill through on the chart as well. So that's again another feature that we actually provide out of the box. Now, this simple sort of query here, if I wanted to use it, for example, in a dashboard, so Sharperlight has its own dashboarding engine as part of the standard product, I can just add a new dashboard tile. I can go in here and actually select that query that I've just created. And I'm just going to output it as a chart. I'll do it as the same chart. I'll just save that. And then what we've got is a new tile that I've added here. The descriptions are a bit wide. I might even resize that if I was deploying it normally. But the same query, which is now available in a tile, if I refresh the page, all those individual tiles go away and refresh the data. So even if they were potentially out of other systems, it would refresh and bring that data back. So another concept of Sharperlight is that reusability of the query in the multiple different sort of presentation layers. The web being just one of them. If we go back to Excel and talk a little bit more about what we do in Excel, so I'll just jump out of these things, jump out of that. So table formulas, so that formula there that creates that table, and that is an Excel table that it's actually generating. That's one of the formulas we have available. One of the other formulas which is very popular is what we call a value formula. Now, a value formula allows you to return a balance into an individual cell. So I'll use the same GL transactions table. This time I'll select the account number on the row, and then I'll do the period. And I'll just output the amount and say okay. Okay to that. So what we've now got here is the balance, bar a little bit of a rounding because I haven't got it formatted as a number. There we go. There's our 97 cents. Just drag that down. All those formulas are Sharperlight formulas, just giving me the balance, the same balance that came out with the table, but as a little self-contained formula in its own right. And these value formulas are really useful for financial reporting. So you can bring back the balance of an account wherever you want in an Excel spreadsheet and lay it out however you want. So they're particularly useful. And you still have the drill down capability over the top of these value formulas, so you don't lose that ability. So in Excel, we provide a number of different ways of pulling information out. We can bring it out based on tables, so we can bring out, balances of accounts, things like that. We can also bring out like multi-column reports. Now, in this example here, I'm not bringing it out as a table, an Excel table. This is what we call a list formula. So a list formula is more akin to just bringing the data out and extracting it into Excel as a list. So it doesn't have a table around it, and it's not restricted by tables. So tables have some limitations that these other formula types allow us to do. Some of the things that we can do in Sharperlight is we can have queries, but we can have queries within queries. So what we would call a subquery. So in this case here, I'm using subqueries to get both the actuals and budgets, and I'm using an expression, so that's in a calculated column, to work out the variance between the two. So these sort of concepts, this ability to pull out information from different areas and do calculations over the top of it. Now, in some cases in Excel, you go, well, I don't need to do that because I can natively do that in Excel. But yes, but if you've got a query and you want to make it available in a web browser, there's no Excel spreadsheet in the background. It's purely query based. So Sharperlight, I guess, is not reliant on Excel in the web because it's a different paradigm of the way it works. So other styles of reports, just quickly jump through a few. Let's say, so top 10, so tables linked to charts. So Sharperlight doesn't take any functionality away from Excel. It just extends the capability. So you can still do the same charting pivot tables that you historically would have done. Aging reports, so we can do debtors aging natively in Sharperlight. Financial reports, so in this case here, profit and loss reports, balance sheet reports. The formulas, so these are value formulas that I'm using here. The thing I think is probably interesting about this is I'm using name ranges. So instead of just using cell referencing here, I'm now introducing using a name range. And I have a default sheet where I've got all my name ranges actually set up. So I've got a global company and a global current accounting period. I want to change the company, I just change the company, it goes away and it actually recalculates all on its own. And I've got drill throughs sitting on that formula. So if I click on this, and then it comes up with the drill throughs which are associated to that formula. Other styles of reports that we do in Excel, we can do date-based financial reports because some of our customers don't want to use periods. They actually want to do date-based reporting. Sharperlight can handle that, not a problem. We also provide the capability to do dynamic reporting. So with Sharperlight, I've got a template here where I've just got pretty much a blank template. But on the sides of it, I've got what we call split formulas. So the split formula will actually split the row out based on combinations of accounts. So the template, when it's recalculated, creates this. So I've already pre-extracted it. So it's showing you here all the account ranges that exist in that range on the template sheet. Now, the concept of splits allows you to build dynamic reports which expand and contract. Now, it can be just rows, it can be columns, it can also be sheets. So in this example here, I've got what we would call a split sheet report. So it's a project-based report. And if I was to recalculate this sheet, what it'll do, it'll go away and create multiple sheets for different projects. So it does a split based on the sheet. So just quickly is going to just go through and recalculate this and just generate the individual sheets. The idea of a split is based on the sheets that it generates. When you recalculate the parent sheet again, it removes those child sheets. So it keeps on recreating the child sheets based on the parent template. So that's exactly what it's just done. Those sheets it's generated based on that parent. Now, one of the other interesting things about Sharperlight, definitely in Excel, is the fact that it allows you to scrape or upload, bulk upload information from Excel and push it back into SAP Business One. So most of the functionality on this ribbon is query or reporting based sort of functionality. This little icon here is what we call a write back interface, where I can upload, bulk upload information into SAP Business One. Now, we're not bypassing any of the security or protocols that you have in SAP Business One. We're using the DI API to actually upload data. And the write-back interface is really based on the idea of we define in our data model various tables, and those tables have fields. And on those fields, some of them are mandatory. So if they're mandatory fields, we put little stars next to them. So you know which fields need to be populated. We can also then map certain fields on the sheet to the inputs. So for example, my posting date here is mapped to C4, as you can see here, or the account number is mapped to column E. So it reads that information in. Now, if I want to upload it, if I just hit execute and it goes away, it validates the data. It then sends it to SAP. SAP does the full range of validation. If there was an error, it would bring back that error message into Excel so you could see it. If there's no problem, it will post the journal directly from Excel. So you don't have to log into SAP to post it. It'll post it from there. So the write back capability is quite extensive. It allows you to do sales orders, purchase orders, inventory, and things like that. It's an area that's kind of very much allowing people to upload bulk loads of data. Some people use it, some people don't. It's a flexibility that they have, and it's part of the standard product. If I just want to roll back and just talk about the web-based reporting, what I've shown you so far on the web are a couple of very simple examples of pre-built queries. If I want to show you how we would normally deliver content in the web, we would actually hang it off a menu. So in this case here, I've got a Sharperlight menu. I've got drop-down menus from there. I've got dashboard pages. I've even got dashboards actually hanging off the menu as well. Now, a lot of people would look at this and say, well, that's a portal. Now, surprisingly enough, that is actually not a portal, even though every bit of content is securable and it can be locked down to individual users and groups. It is a query, what we would call a published query. So publisher is the component that I opened up in Excel, and publisher allows us to upload data, to query and present data in a web browser. So Publisher is really our shared catalog of published queries. And if I just very quickly open up this dialog here, you've got configuration tabs here for various things you might want to do. So if you want to deliver it as a chart, you've got configuration based around that, things like that. The other sort of things that we can do in the web, which are probably very popular, is maybe not necessarily just dashboarding, but high-level metrics. So you can do Sparkle lines and things like that. We also find a market for financial reporting in the web. So a lot of people do their presentation style reporting in Excel, and they may then PDF that and use that as part of their board pack. But if they want to provide content for a larger group of audience, and they want to provide content during the month as it's actually happening, that's where the web reporting actually really fits in well. So it's a pull sort of paradigm. Provided they've got a valid login, they can come in and consume this content whenever they want. Obviously, web-based content, they can then download it to Excel or PDF or do whatever they want if they can then get access to it. They also have the ability to do drill downs in the web. There's a number of different sort of ways that we can do drill down in the web. Here we go, just another little example of something. So we can, instead of having the right-hand click menu, we can have a little icon here where we click on it and it takes you to a slice of the data. Just a slightly different way of providing you a drill, because in this case here, you've still got filters, so you could change the filter criteria. So you can actually adapt it based on what you want to deliver to the end user audience. Okay. One of the last things I was going to say with Sharperlight is that what I'm showing you here can be installed both in the cloud, it can be installed on premise. Access to Sharperlight is obviously secured, it's authenticated, but it can span multiple locations. So Sharperlight's built on the basis of web services. So somebody can be building reports in Excel, but what they're doing is connecting back to a server in the cloud securely. So Sharperlight's already built with that security built natively into it. And during the pandemic, a lot of people, who traditionally had their installation Sharperlight running on premise were actually saying, well, can we actually, because everybody's working from home, how do we then access Sharperlight remotely? And we gave them the instructions as an article on our website, and a lot of our customers actually converted over to working both remotely and on premise. And it was a very easy transition for them. Right, I've actually achieved a lot more than I actually thought. Last couple of things just to mention. So I talked about in the web, it's a pull sort of concept. We also have a scheduling tool in Sharperlight. So if you want to do a push, so if you want to run reports and push them out, we do actually have a scheduling tool that actually allows you to do that. And we also have a number of other componentry as part of the standard product. One of them allows you to materialize data. So you can take a snapshot in time of data and then reuse that data. So that's particularly important. And I guess the last thing that I would actually talk about specifically around SAP is I mentioned before the user-defined fields, and in fact, user-defined tables as well. So Sharperlight recognizes user-defined fields and tables. We can report over them through Sharperlight. So if I go back to where I was at the very, very beginning, just drop back there, to go back to where I was here, and I just scroll down. So user-defined tables, they are SAP ones, they are my ones. In this case here, I'm not using the native budgets in SAP, I'm using user-defined tables for that. Sharperlight allows you to upload into those user-defined tables. So for user-defined tables, Sharperlight does double duty. It provides both a way of reporting out of it, but you can also bulk upload data into it. So again, standard functionality that we provide with SAP. Okay, I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. I think I will hand over to Tim. Oh yes, somebody's just prompted me and said, oh, what about aggregation across companies, which is a very good point. Sharperlight natively, we can query across multiple companies. So I can just come in here, multi-select companies, hit OK, it goes away and it recalculates. And what it's now doing, and I'll just get rid of that, I can drill into that, I can output the company, and it's aggregated the companies on the fly. So yeah, if you're doing consolidated reporting across multiple companies, Sharperlight will natively allow you to aggregate it with the assumption you have an eliminations company. So aggregate your companies together with an eliminations company in there, and that gives your intercompany transactions that you want to remove. Rightio. Tim, and I think we're time for questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Donald.
Not a problem.
Just before we go through any questions, we've got Nurgal Barrett joining us, who's the Financial Director at Frankham Consultancy Group. Hopefully, Nurgal will appear now. Hi, Nurgal.
Hello, good morning.
So just wanted to go through a couple of questions with you to find out a bit more about your experience in using Sharperlight, both as an FD and as an end user.
Sure.
So a couple of basics to begin. How long have you been using Sharperlight?
So basically, I've been using Sharperlight for nearly 8 years, 8 to 10 years.
Okay. And when you initially went ahead, how simple was the onboarding process?
I haven't been involved in the process, but I believe it was just it was so straightforward, simple, and everything's done smoothly. So I didn't see. I don't think. I mean, I haven't heard any issues when my colleague was dealing with the setting up onboarding.
Okay. And in terms of other reporting solutions, have you looked at any at all? Have you had any need to look at any other solutions since using Sharperlight?
Well, originally we were using something called Vision before Sharperlight. It wasn't as effective as Sharperlight. It was just a simple tool that we were using just to run simple reports, and it wasn't giving us any key financial data or financial reporting and everything else. But since we've had Sharperlight, it's given everything what we needed basically. Obviously, you had to write all the reports yourself, whatever you need for the SMT meeting and any other meetings. So Sharperlight is the report, or is the system that I would prefer, to be honest, compared to Vision or alternatives.
So I was going to ask that as a question. So you actually do create the reports yourself?
Yes, I mean, I've just seen Ronald going through, and I am so familiar with the first couple of parts, but the last one I was making a note of something that I need to go back to Sharperlight, like write backs. He was showing me we could upload from Excel into SAP, something that I'm really interested to do, but I don't know how. So I'll be looking into that.
So I suppose you benefit from actually being able to create reports yourself and utilize them.
Yeah,
And
I
then
am.
use them for your
Yes.
board pack or the
Yes.
SMT. Yeah.
Yes. Well, to be honest, on a monthly basis, we have got a lot of tasks that we need to complete to produce the profit and loss account for each disciplines, and we've written all our P&Ls ourselves using Excel add-ins, such as we created tables, we created value formulas. So I've got like group TBs, I've got P&Ls, I've got a lot of data about sub-consultant disbursement. So I've written everything myself along with my colleagues, and then that's already done. So we just change the periods, and it gives us what we're looking for, and it's reconciled back to SAP. And we audit that obviously, and it gives us what we want. But we also write ad hoc reports, whatever people needs, because sometimes they do come back and say they want to see what's been invoiced under one client, and we're in a position to write that within a second, and it gives me the information that I need instead of just going to SAP and lots of different steps. But it's with Sharperlight, it's there on an Excel, and you can turn it into PDF, anything you want.
Okay. No, brilliant. So I suppose the main point there is you can use it as an end user. You can create these reports yourself. You could obviously come to the partner and discuss something if you wanted something more specific, more technical, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And I suppose last question: if you were, in terms of your business network, your contacts, would you recommend Sharperlight as a reporting analytics tool?
100%. I would recommend to any users of SAP, mainly because SAP and Sharperlight works really well. We do use another system for project-based system, Workbench, and I do run report using Workbench and SAP. It's just so simple and user-friendly. It's quite straightforward as well. You don't have to, as long as you know what you want, the end result. You can just go back and follow the steps. I mean, Ronald already showed us like when you select a company and it gives you what reports you want. You can do financial reports, you can do creditors, suppliers, you can select anything what you want. I mean, you can't damage the system. You can run a report. If you don't get the result that you want, you can go back and change the fields and take or add. It's just simple for me, to be honest. I'm very happy and continue to use Sharperlight.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So just to confirm, you said there at the end there, you're using SAP Business One and you're currently using Workbench for projects
Yes,
and using Sharperlight to interrogate both systems.
yes.
No problem. No, that's brilliant. Really appreciate that, Nurgal. Thanks very much for taking the time today.
My
Um,
pleasure.
what we'll
Thank
do
you.
now, if there are any questions, I think there's an opportunity to put questions in the chat. Should you sort of have some questions to take away and come back to us on, that's absolutely fine. I'll probably catch up with everyone over the next few days.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah,
we
I've just
got?
seen a question from Donald said, yeah, we are using Sharperlight for Workbench as well. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
No
for any kind of reports from Workbench or SAP, we use Sharperlight. Yeah.
Any other questions on? No problem. Right. Well, I think just thank you everyone for today.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
Robin and Donald, for the presentation, and thanks, Nurgal, for your time. That's
Thank
brilliant.
you. Thanks,
And
Tim.
all that's joined us, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll catch up soon.